Welcome back, everybody, to the Pure Positivity Podcast. My name is Bobby, along with my lovely wife, Eden.
Hello.
And we have our dogs and our cat around here. We got Rosa, we got Opal in the background, Loca, our black cat, and of course, the star of the show, Carlito! Tell them, everybody. Say, I'm Carlito! Yes, sir. We are a company that is all about the relationship that we have with our pets. No synthetic junk, no one size fits all advice, just real food, real healing, and the kind of connection that changes everything. Today, we're sitting down with Danielle Ruccia, someone who's doing real hands-on work at the intersection of human and pet health. No fluff, no gimmicks, just results. She's helped thousands of people and animals detox, heal, reclaim control of their health without getting lost in the trends or trapped in systems that don't work. In this conversation, we're getting into what actually works, what doesn't, and how to see through the noise. Whether you're just starting out or already deep in the holistic world, this one's going to challenge you and what you already know in the best way. So welcome to the show, Danielle.
Thank you. Thank you. You couldn't have described it better.
Yeah, well, we're super excited to have you on today. We resonate really strongly with what you do, and what we're kind of like, we have a lot in common. We love our pets, but we feel like just by loving our pets, it can actually help ourselves.
Absolutely.
So for the people out there, let's go ahead and just get started with what exactly do you do in plain terms, and people who are just hearing about you.
Okay, so what I do is, you summed it up, like I said, very nicely. I try to keep the process of everything that I do very simple, because what I try to explain to people is there's a lot of noise out there, especially on social media. I kind of describe it as information pollution. There is so much coming at us that oftentimes we don't really know where to start. And that's kind of the approach I try to take with people, is just simplifying things. So whether I have a platform, and it's actually called Detox for People and Pets. So sometimes people are surprised. They're like, you actually help people? I'm like, well, I do. That's where I started on this whole journey. So I try to teach people about just, there are better ways, and it doesn't have to, again, be so complicated. So it's working on looking at the body from a whole perspective, and when we have something that's going on within the system, whether again, it's ourselves or our pets, there is always a way to be able to heal from that. And I'd like to take that healing out of the doctor's office, out of the vet's office, and bring that into my home. Implement things that we could heal with diet, with detox, and then some supplementation, because I also do not overdo it on that end either.
Yeah, well, I mean, the supplementation thing it's real. Unfortunately, the foods that we, even if you eat everything natural and healthy foods, a lot of it is just diluted, right? So it's not the same steak that our grandparents ate.
Absolutely. And it just comes down to, listen, this stuff gets complicated. Well, not complicated. I would say there's deeper levels of it. So, right, like our soil is depleted, and I have several cats. I'll just let you know, they might be showing up on screen as well. So yeah, the soil's depleted, and it just we're not taking in as many nutrients as we should be. And even because the main thing is, again, this is people and pets, the same thing, because our bodies are so overloaded with toxins, a lot of times our bodies can't absorb, the nutrients and the supplementation that we're trying to put in. And then supplements are, a lot of them are just kind of like a fancy way of trying to heal the body, when a lot of our supplements are pretty, toxic. So there's a lot to it, but when you learn these things, it makes it, you'll find that you can really find this information if you find someone like you guys, if you find someone maybe like me that can break it down for you. And then again, you can kind of push away all the noise that gets you very confused about sometimes this lifestyle.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So how did this work start for you? Was it something that happened in your own personal health, or was it a shift that sort of changed everything?
So it did happen in my own personal health. I am 43 years old right now. When I was probably about 21 years old, I was sick pretty much my entire life. But when I was 21, I really hit a wall. And now knowing, right, it was just like my toxicity level was so insane. I was so overloaded that I was developing all sorts of issues. They thought I had cancer. I had multiple, what they say, autoimmune conditions, all these different things I was being diagnosed with, dealing with 30 different symptoms. And I just knew if I basically spent my 21-year-old, life where I'm supposed to be having fun and enjoying myself to, I was about 28, just seeing nothing but doctors and specialists and in and out of the hospital, more and more medications. And I always say this without it sounding dramatic because it was the truth. I knew if I didn't do something, I was going to die. Like my body was completely shut down. And when I turned 28, I said, I'm done. I'm breaking away from the system because unfortunately, the system is what's making me sick. And so I just did everything I possibly could to learn about the human body, to learn about detoxing, and listen, I did things wrong and I took the long way because I was learning. There wasn't really so much of an emphasis on social media back then. I was like in, books and research articles and documentaries. And honestly, I have to say, I'm almost happier that I did it that way because now when I turn on social media, I mean, I would be so overwhelmed if I was trying to heal myself in 2025 with the amount of information that's put out there. And oftentimes it's very conflicting information.
It is, yeah.
Well, sorry you had to go through what you went through, and I think it's just unfortunately so common these days with the health system and everything that's going on. But thank you for your courage to one break free from the norm, which is just going down the medical route and healing yourself that way. It takes a lot of courage and to push forward when everything is telling you this is the way to do it. So that's amazing that you were able to do that. So did your pets play a role in any of this, getting on this path, or did that come after?
So that came after. Well, yeah, kind of after. I would say so. Casey is my current dog now. She's going to be 18 at the third week in May, Labor Day weekend. So we're coming up on a big birthday. I was still in my kind of, I was in my learning phase, right, of doing all these things with myself back then. I did vaccinate my dog. Like people are always surprised. It's like I was still kind of, even though I was learning about the stuff for myself, I wasn't focusing, I guess, on that, right? I was literally trying to save my own life. And I had brought her to the vet and I don't even remember what vaccine it was back then. And it ended up, we left the vet and she had on her kind of hindsight, it blew up to like the size of an orange.
Wow.
And I thought, okay, right, this isn't good. I called the vet. Of course, they say it's normal. And something just clicked in me. And I was like, okay, this is anything but normal. I am like never doing this again. I am so done. And I just from there, I was like, what am I doing? Like, you know what I mean? I'm doing all these changes in my own life. I'm recognizing that Western medicine is, again, these practices that they're following are poisoning people. And I was like, how am I not making the connection between that and veterinary care? And that is where it just clicked for me. And I was like, absolutely not. And we have not been to the vet in 14 years because I am the vet. I've become the vet, and that's how I pretty much got here with my pets.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, you talked about making mistakes along the way. I think that's absolutely normal, and that's how we learn as human beings. And I think a lot of folks out here are just afraid. They're so afraid to make a mistake, and that's something that has become like preached into people, and it's really sad to see because, again, that's how we learn.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I mean, even the veterinarians and doctors, there's times and places for them for sure. And so I never want to downgrade that. But at the same time, they make mistakes too. And we are out the booty with money, and just financially paying out into things that aren't working and harming us and our pets. So I can vibe with everything you're saying. Kind of started this similar way with to not talk too much about myself. I mean, it was starting with myself with the foods and the toxicity levels. And at 39 years old right now, I'm figuring out how to get rid of all of that stuff. But forever, I was wondering what's going on. And I thought I was living a holistic lifestyle. And I was thinking all these things and trusting the foods and trusting stuff. And then the same with the pet foods, and then once we really deep dive into that, that's why we started what we started just a few years ago, trying to bring awareness. But so yeah, what you're dead on all of this stuff, and so
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, because it's not easy to go through all of this because the norm challenges us every day.
Absolutely.
The
So
norm does challenge us. Yes, that's the hard part. Yes.
have you you were talking about the you're your own vet now, and so have you ever studied under anyone specific, or is this all like self-taught through experience and obsession?
So definitely obsession, but for sure experience. And listen, I am a holistic, health coach. Will I say and this is not, to make myself sound like I know it all, because I absolutely do not. When I went for the certification, a lot of the stuff obviously I knew, but I felt like, let me get something that actually certifies me. I have taken just classes, over the years. I always try to surround myself with people that are smarter than me, especially in an area that I want to learn more about. So when I knew I wanted to learn more about detoxification, because I knew I needed that, to again save my own life, then I started following those people. I started to speak with those people. I started to take their courses, So that's just how I did this. This is 20 years now, of just constantly learning. I'm like that forever student, because I know things are always going to grow and change, and I have to keep up with what's out there. At the same time, I always go back to this, is that we still have to focus on things being simple, because there is so much out there that is just getting a little too crazy. It's a little too much, and it's just, I just dive into anything I can, whether it's books, like I said, documentaries. I'm always, looking to learn and just kind of keep myself just growing so I can help other people do the same.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, and I kind of feel like the more people you help, then you've helped lots of people and their pets. Like that's really, in my opinion, the only certification or degree that you really need.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, I get people, I'm going to get the people that you don't know what you're talking about, and you're not a vet. And I'm like, listen, I get that. I don't really listen to again, that's just noise to me. Some of and you said it before, there's always a place for, Western medicine. There's always a place for conventional veterinary care. I'm not saying that there isn't, but we're overdoing it, right? Where we shouldn't be these lifelong customers. We can be lifelong students. We should not be lifelong customers sitting in a doctor's office or sitting in a veterinarian, office. Why are we going there constantly when our animals were not sick in the first place? That's what I really try to challenge people to look at.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I mean, I actually feel like, and we're the same way. We're not anti-vet. It's the thing. There's a time and a place, but I think that most people out there, they're not anti-vet. They're anti-misunderstanding. So, what would you say is the biggest misunderstanding that people just blindly follow in standard vet care?
I mean, what I see often, because I do a lot of one-on-one protocols, so I have a lot of people on the phone, and I'll say this too. What was interesting is, because I was so separated from the vet, right? I haven't been there in 14 years. I am honestly very shocked about what is going on, and I could sit here, we could sit here for hours and me tell you the stories that people come to me about. It's not only shocking, it's really upsetting, and I think what's happening is people unfortunately think that if their vet says it must be safe. If their vet says, to take this vaccine or take this medication or have your dog, eat this food, it must be safe. And the truth is, unfortunately, what's pushed is leading to a lot of these chronic illnesses, and it's not really getting to the root cause. So now, unfortunately, kind of like what happened to me in my own personal life, right? You give somebody a medication, that person's coming back to you at some point, because that medication is doing something that's going to break down other parts of the body. So now we create lifelong customers. And whether this is done by design or not, right? We have to break away from this system that is doing that, because that's exactly what the issue is we cannot just walk in there blindly. You've got to walk in there being educated. I did it myself. When I started to learn about the parts of the body and what needed to be done, and a doctor was like, do this, take this, do that, I was like, absolutely not. Now, I don't never go to the doctor. I go in once a year. I get my blood work. They know me and I'm always respectful, but they're like, we're not asking, just give us your arm. Just give us your arm. We'll do the blood work. We know that if you find something that is wrong within yourself, you're leaving, you're fixing it. There's that respect. I found someone that respects me enough, to do that. So if I had to with, a vet, I would try to find a vet that did the same thing, that understood boundaries and respected where I was coming from. Just have that knowledge and education. Don't just go in there and take, their word as Bible, because it's unfortunately not.
No, that's really great advice for anybody out there listening. And I mean, let's be real. If some people out there, of course, will be like, "Oh, you should be wearing your tinfoil hat," conspiracy theories, but there's a point where it just becomes not theory any longer. It's just it's just conspiracy.
What's our friend say? Conspiracy factualist.
Yeah, she says that.
I like that.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. I've been called all sorts of things.
Yeah.
So honestly, who even cares at this point? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and I mean, we're not anti-vet by any means, of course. Doctors, these things, again, there's a time and place. We actually had a guest on, Rita Hogan, recently, and she was talking about how the real problem isn't the vets themselves. It's that we're not actually helping them help themselves, which means that if they don't know that they're doing wrong and you just go to another vet, then they don't know what they did and they're not able to fix it. And so she said that we should send an email or send a letter or talk to them and let them know, I'm going to another vet because of this, and that could be after a couple of those happening when they start losing their business, it'd be like, maybe I need to change something. But
that goes for our own doctors too, and sadly they all have to do a little extra after they get out of their original schooling, and that's just the sad part. It's very expensive too, and there's a lot of mental health going on with all of that for everybody, and we get it. So I think more awareness for everybody, on every level, because we are teachers and Earth is our school, and I truly believe that.
Yeah, I think what people, I would also say the biggest issues I would say that people face, at least when they come to me, and I have spoken to hundreds, almost thousands of people at this point, whether it's one-on-one protocols or social media conversations, is people feel very intimidated by their vets. And the unfortunate, again, this is not, like you said, this is 100% not bashing, but when we are trying to have a conversation where maybe we want to open up to some, things that we're not feeling comfortable with, a lot of times it is met, with people kind of being shut down. So I think it's a respect on both ends. It's a respect, for the vet as the doctor, to be willing to also listen to the consumer, about the patient, right? Because if we had children, we'd be fighting for them, right? These are our pets. These are our children. We know them best, So it's important, I think, for both ends to be able to have a conversation without one end, you know what I mean? That arguing or that, being defensive. That's what I would love to see. The same thing. And that's so important. I'll just say is I'm not against veterinary care. I'm against incomplete care. And that's what I'm seeing with just the conventional care. It's incomplete. It's not root cause. I would love to be out there, you know what I mean, working with some of these vets. And it's why not work together? Right. That's how I see it.
Collaboration, right?
I agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so let's get into some of the juice here. I have a good question here that I love what you speak about on this. So you were talking earlier about your dog that you need to get him vaccinated. So what is your real take on rabies vaccines, over-vaccination, and how animals are being injected just unnecessarily?
Yes, unnecessarily is the word, my friends. Right, we laugh, but it's obviously very serious. It is very sad to see what is happening to our animals. This kind of goes back to what I was just saying a minute ago. When I post a lot of these videos on social media, some of them get hundreds of thousands, you know what I mean? It could be 50,000, and within that video are thousands and thousands of comments. And those comments, right, are from people that it's heartbreaking to read. It never gets old for me. You know what I mean? There's times I actually have to take a break from it because I start to get upset. and it's just my dog either died or my cat, started having seizures, or right there's 1,000 different things that could go wrong. It is again this idea that we have to be putting something that is toxic in the body to protect the body. And I try to explain this to people in a way that it's such a sensitive, right, topic to cover. And I always say to people, I'm not one that stands up on my soapbox, and these are not judgment, based conversations that I have. It's just about teaching people. You don't put toxins in the body to protect the body from the so-called toxins, or the bacteria or the virus or whatever disease. You literally have an immune system. It is one of the simplest things to understand. We have an immune system, and it is there for a reason. And each and every time we vaccinate, and now over vaccinate, because that's what's happening, it literally destroys the immune system. By the time people come to me, and I'm going to tell you, I'm seeing dogs that are younger and younger, 3, 4, 5 years old, that have debilitating arthritis.
Wow. God.
It,
So sad.
okay, debilitating arthritis, the allergies, because now it's the pandemic amongst our animals, right, are these just literally, animals are just itching their skin off. That I work with people all over the world, and I say to them, think about it. You guys are all suffering with the same issues all over the world. What is the one common thing that we do to animals all throughout the world? Mm-hmm. We vaccinate them, and we over vaccinate them, and it is just destroying their little bodies. And it is very, very upsetting to see. Mm-hmm. And it's unnecessary, even with the rabies vaccine. Mm-hmm. Technically, if they want to talk about science, okay, one rabies vaccine lasts in the body for 10 years. Why are we giving it? It used to be every 5. Now it went down to every 3. Some states stick to 3. I'm hearing about states that are pushing it every single year.
Yeah.
Why,
And the same size for like a 5-pound dog as opposed to a 100-pound dog. Like even that was the first trigger for me. I'm like, that doesn't make sense, know. And then, And
now it's even just to go to your groomer, you have to have these sheets of vaccination proof to, it's way, way too much, like you said, and pardon the pun, but it rolls over into our lives too.
It does. But I want people to know too, because I'm going to tell you, that is like the number one thing that I see when people say, well, what do you mean? Like, so you don't vaccinate your dog, you can't go get your dog groomed. And I'm like, guys, okay, grooming my dog is not worth taking years off my dog's life. Now, I am the groomer as well, okay? But I understand my dog does not have like this, difficult, code or things that have to be maintained. Yeah. But you can find people out there, and I know that because when I do videos, and my mobile groomers have been like, please, can you stop grouping us in the same category as these groomers that are forcing this stuff? We are out there. We do not require this. Some of them are, more holistic and homeopathic. Mm-hmm. Just, you got to do a little homework when you're looking to break free from the mainstream, but it is out there and it can be done.
Absolutely. Maybe it requires, if you live in rural America, maybe it requires a little bit of more of a drive. But there are people out there that will help you, and that's amazing because this movement's really growing, and the collaboration, it's like you can start to feel these things, people starting to wake up. So
we want to be part of the resources to help get that word out for those groomers and for those people that are going the holistic route, because they get it and they see it, and then we can have that partnership as opposed to battling these issues.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime someone tells me that this is the practice they follow, I'm like, send me your contact information. You know what I mean? Let me put that out there, because you may now, lead somebody in another state to another place, just this is how we can build this community, and not then, oh, well, I can't, get my dog groomed, so I have to do this vaccination. No, you don't. Right? We can find ways around this stuff. And then maybe other people will start opening their eyes to the fact that they are going to lose business, because all of this is money driven. Yeah. That's the bottom line.
Yep.
Yeah. And with titer testing, being available, widely available, and this is something that a lot of people don't know about, and we're not going to go deep into it, but titer testing is just what will show if your dog has the antibodies, then they don't need these vaccinations. That should be enough. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, right now it's not. But the more we talk about it, the more we get this out there, the more people get, uproaring about their dog getting sick or whatever, allergies, arthritis, all these things happening because of the vaccinations, then we can, start to make actual changes.
Hmm.
Speaking of controversial things out there, uh, ivermectin. When is it smart? When is it overkill? And when is it actually like a hidden tool that no one talks about?
So, okay, I also went down that rabbit hole because, I don't usually do anything without really getting in there and
Yeah.
figuring the whole thing out. So I spent 6 months really digging, learning. When I think it's overkill, again, this goes the same thing for people, for pets, is when we're utilizing these things when we know the body doesn't necessarily need it. Like I hear people say, oh, I just take it like as if I would take a vitamin.
Yeah.
No, no, I would not do that at all. When would you use it? Well, you can use it in part of just your, parasite cleanse. So usually what I recommend for people, if they want to go this route, is 3 to 5 times a year is when you should be doing a parasite cleanse for your pets, for yourselves. So it depends, right? If you have a dog, like my dog in particular, we're always doing stuff. We're always hiking. She's in the river, the lake, the ponds, like we're all over the place. Is she picking up parasites and bacteria and things like that? Yes, she is. So obviously, I do more of that 4 to 5 times a year. If you have a dog that's more, I know some people, they're not really doing all that with their dog. They maybe go outside of the backyard, come back in, but you still want a parasite cleanse. So I would take them through maybe that 3 times a year. But yeah, just using it for like, those specific times, not as like this preventative, because you don't want anything in the body. I don't use anything really every single day, except for maybe more. We can get into that, but like there's really only 2 things I use as like a supplement for my dog. Everything else is just as needed. That's how I do it.
Yeah. Nature is the supplement for the most part.
Yes.
It's like a healthy pet can have supplementation and actually use it, whereas like most of these, unfortunately in America, 74% of our pets are overweight or obese. And so like when you put
Hmm.
supplements into, like just like with us, into an unhealthy body, it's not really using it the way that it should. So that's really awesome information there for folks out there who just don't know anything about ivermectin or detox. So thanks for that.
Hmm.
Um, what would you say are like three? So like if anybody's out there and they're just worried about toxic load, right, for their pets or even for themselves, what would you say are three clear signs that your dog or cat is carrying too much toxic load?
Yes. So I will tell you the 3 things that people come to me most for, to get help with is, like we said, definitely the allergies. This is the most common thing, are the skin
Yeah.
issues. I will also have people say to me, well, my dog's not sick, but, right? But my dog is itching. My dog has, a lot of ear infections are common. Lipomas are common. So
Mm-hmm.
lipomas are, they're not cancers, but they're fatty growths that end up on the body from a buildup of toxins. I have people coming to me nonstop about lipomas. And again, the veterinarian will tell them, oh, it's just normal, so you don't have to worry about it. So they will say to me, my pet is healthy, but they have these lipomas. And I have to be the unfortunate person to say, well, your pet is not exactly healthy, because a lipoma means that the lymphatic system is so backed up, that it's collecting these toxins within the body.
Yeah.
So then what do, right? We determine where those toxins are coming from so we can first remove them, and then we put a game plan in place on how to now actually open up that pathway. But it's the skin issues, definitely. I would also say like the arthritis, skin arthritis, and then really the ear infections, eye infections. I feel like that falls under, kind of the same umbrella.
Yeah.
But those are the 3 major things. So you got to look for that. Any type of limping, any type of itching, digestive issues. Just listen to the body, because none of this stuff is normal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Those are really great tips.
Would you say those lymphomas that you're talking about, do they look like hot spots and like swelling around it?
No,
No?
so
Okay, so it's
lipomas,
different.
they're large. They
Okay.
look kind of like it sometimes looks like the size of like a golf ball. I mean, it could get
Oh,
bigger.
yeah, like a
It
big
can
lump.
be like the size of an orange.
Yep.
They're big, and they're kind of like squishy,
Yeah.
like
Mm-hmm.
you can move them a bit. So that's what lipomas are.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the skin issues are the immune system. It's the immune system breaking down and attacking its own skin, and that's usually one of the
Hmm.
first signs. So that's a really great way to like for people to know like how many dogs out here or cats are just itchy all the time and have red skin and they're flaky and that. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a sign right there that your dog is there's some your cat it needs some attention, right? So those are
Correct.
that's excellent information.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what would you say is the simplest way to just begin detoxing for your pets without overwhelming them or yourself even?
Yes. Well, this is how I developed everything. I just follow like a three-stage process, right? Again, it is the food. That's the number one thing, right? That our animals are taking in on a daily basis. So it is either, providing nutrition to the body or it is adding toxins to the body. It is food detox. So getting into the system, releasing the toxins that are already there. Do not do anything crazy. Usually, I look at a vaccine detox plus a parasite cleanse to be able to kind of what I always describe it is it's that collection, that internal bucket of toxins that builds up over the years. What most people miss is they don't dump that bucket. They don't know how to detox properly. So, again, food detox. And then the last piece is supplementation, because you mentioned it before as well. When the body is toxic, when that bucket is full, body is not going to be able to absorb those supplements. So you're essentially taking supplements and it's kind of a waste of money. And we don't want to waste our money or our time and we want these things to work. So three-stage system: food, detox, supplementation.
That's
I
great.
dig it. Yep.
Yeah, I myself have really dug into the lymphatic system recently. I'm kind of like you were talking about doing research 6 months for the. I'm a big nerd and I go down deep rabbit holes, and so like
Mm-hmm.
the lymphatic system, so incredibly important in us as well. And it's not getting it's not getting used properly, and it's just filling up with toxins. So what you're talking about is really amazing stuff because we can do lymphatic massage on ourselves and on our pets
Mm-hmm.
daily, and it takes less than a minute. So,
Literally. And it's the sewer
Wonderful.
system of the body. So
yes,
what the reason why so many people are struggling, and even our pets, we don't move enough. We
Mm-hmm.
don't move. Like
yeah,
even if you go work out at the gym, but sit at a desk, right, for 7, 8 hours, you drive in your car, like, we come home, we're exhausted, right? Maybe we sit down, we eat, we sit down on the couch, we sleep. We're just not moving enough,
yeah,
so we need that movement. And oftentimes because we don't have it, like you said, we can just manipulate the system, get that massage in there, and yeah, just move the lymphatic system manually.
So why would you think that the lymphatic system is so ignored in mainstream care? I don't. It blows my mind, because it's something that is so incredibly important. And I honestly didn't even really know that it was there for most of my life. Like, I
Hmm.
mean, I had my tonsils removed because I grew up in the '80s, and I'm like angry about that now because I didn't know that I didn't know they were lymphatic
Me
organs.
too. Yep, me
Yeah,
too.
yeah, we're the exact same age, by the way. So it's yeah, it's one of those things that like when you start learning about it, you're like, why is this not out there? Because
Hmm.
nobody even knows what it is. They don't know what to do about it, and they don't even realize that one, there's you have to move for it to move. It's moved by gravity and by motion, and so like people need to get up, and even if it's stretching or just walking,
Hmm.
little things like that. Why do you think it's just not out there?
What's interesting is here's how they put it out there, right? And you guys will all probably, recognize this conversation that your doctor has had with you at some point. It's like, oh, your lymph nodes are swollen. You know what I mean? When you go to the doctor.
Yeah,
And it's like, that's usually the most you get out of that kind of conversation. And then it's like, oh, so what do we do for swollen lymph nodes? Oh, I must be sick. Oh, what do I do? I must take an antibiotic.
Antibiotics.
Right? That's
Yeah.
like just kind of as far as that connection seems to go,
yeah,
when all you need to know is your lymph nodes are basically like, it's that warning sign. Like it's actually good to know, okay, so my lymph nodes are swollen. So I know, right, that things are backed up. Or I know that there's maybe a little bit of a toxicity, within my system. What they do, I mean, I had it happen with me. I had lymph nodes swollen all over the place. They biopsied them, they want to remove
wow,
them. Like,
God.
oh Lord, it is horrible for the system.
Yeah.
So they just don't teach people, really, because these would be more root causes. Like, let's get to the root cause. Let's open up that pathway. It's just not taught to open up the pathways. It's not. It never seems to come up. And that is root cause right there. If you do not do that, you cannot heal.
Yeah. That's really good information. I wanted to share this with anybody who's out there listening. I actually found this protocol on YouTube. This guy, it's called the Big Six, lymphatic massage. It literally, I do it every morning. I've been doing it for about 2 months now, and the crazy thing is you start to notice some of these detox signs in the body almost like right away, and it takes time for that to really start to get through because depending on the lifestyle that you lived before and how many years you did that, there's a lot of toxins that can build up. So the Big Six, guys, if you ever want to check out something, look that up on YouTube because it's really amazing and it takes 30 seconds to a minute every day. So I just wanted to share that with you. How do you think that things like raw bones and movement and chewing actually support detox and lymph health?
Well, I like the raw bones for a couple different things. I mean, they do have enzymes, right, that help with the digestive system. They're good for the teeth. So, like, if your dogs have any tartar buildup, right, and the last thing you want to do is go get their teeth cleaned, please never do that. That's another issue because they're pulling dogs' teeth. They're doing all these crazy procedures to clean them. Terrible. So it's awesome for, just that natural teeth cleaning. I like it. I use them often, usually more in the summer months, because obviously I'm using them outside. I like them better than your conventional treats. People also have to watch the treats. I mean, between the actual treats themselves and then the dog toys that are just made of plastics, and rubbers and even these cotton-based synthetic things, that they're ripping open, they're eating the cotton. Like, yes, go your raw meaty bones. That is all they should have, they should consume, really all they should play with. They don't need these other things unless, I know there are some companies that are working on more cleaner options for toys and treats and things like that, and that's also amazing.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's excellent.
That resonates with us completely.
Yeah, we actually just had her on. Her name's Jen. She works for a company called Conifera, and they use coffee wood, sustainable coffee wood, and coconut rind rope. So it's all natural, and it actually cleans their teeth, and it's so they're.
That's
really,
amazing.
yeah.
Can you send me that information? Because I would
For sure.
love
Yes.
to promote something like that.
For
They're
sure.
really, really great.
We got rid of all of our toys, and that's all we use now. The dog and the cats, they
They're
love
usually
them,
all around
so.
me, so.
I know. But
Yeah, please. I would love to promote. I would love to get it myself, 100%.
Yep.
That's awesome, and we'll put the information down below too on this. But they're
and
really
then
great.
like single ingredient treats, we don't
Yep.
mess around with any of that because we're so diligent on ingredients now and what's going in. 90% of the crap out there is just awful. It's causing a lot of teeth issues. It's causing digestive issues and skin issues, and on top of the vaccines and all that too. So it's just like if we can really narrow it down. That's why there's collaboration on this podcast right now. It's just I'm super excited about it. I just love talking.
Yeah, absolutely. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So can you explain the connection between hydration, massage, and drainage, and especially for those pet owners who've never heard of this type of stuff before?
So yeah, hydration is a big piece here because especially cats, like most cats, the reason why they end up, and so many of them end up having major health issues, even having strokes, like kidney issues, is because they don't hydrate themselves. And then on top of it, right, if you're feeding things like kibble, it's just dehydrating the body. So you have to find different ways to make sure that you are promoting, hydrating your pets. Obviously, too, you do not want to be using, tap water. So many people just think, oh, let me fill it up in the sink, and put it down on the ground. Even the water sometimes from the fridge, like the filters, those are not really filtering things out. So find yourself a good source of filtered water. For my cats, I have a fountain because I have learned that cats do not like still water because for them, it's like they can pick up on the fact that it's like not clean. Like they want that clean, fresh, pure water. So, and they need so much more hydration. Our dogs drink. I come back from a walk, the dog's drinking, she just drinks drinks when she eats. She just drinks a lot more. I do give my dog hydrogen water. I just feel like give that to myself too. And I have a machine, so I know it makes a little bit different, makes it easier. But I do that for the water, for like the massage and stuff. Yeah, I'm always, although it sounds a little creepy, I say to people, I'm always feeling my dog. I need to know. I need to find the lumps, the bumps. I find ticks. Like, you know what I mean? People are like, how do you know she had a tick? I'm like, because I am always massaging and feeling, and that's how I know things are there. That's how I know when something is going wrong. And then it helps with the lymphatic drainage. So it's just like it works for a couple different reasons.
That's great.
And bonding.
Yeah,
and it releases your
That's how they know that
Of
you're
course.
there too.
Yeah. Well, she's more like, oh God, here she comes. What's she coming at me for next?
Again.
Again, I can tell this is different than a regular pet. She's coming at me for something.
That's great. And we do talk a lot about species appropriate raw feeding. That right there is one way to really get extra hydration, because they're actually getting hydration from the food itself. We noticed that with our dogs, they stopped drinking as much water. That was one of the first things we noticed. We're like, oh my God, are they okay? But in actuality, they're getting the hydration from their food, which is one thing. A couple other tips would be like raw goat milk, bone broth. Those are great ways to add hydration. Cucumber water if you really want to get fancy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, through the food that's huge. I mean, I give pureed, puree up my veggies, so there's a lot of, content that comes from the food, of course, because again, and if you get them off the kibble, you're also, changing up that one thing that is just loaded, with sodium, and it just robs the body of hydration.
Yeah, that's great information. So can you share with us any pet success stories that still get you emotionally?
So there's so many, but I will share. I mean, I had someone in particular. When people come to me, listen, sometimes it's just easy, right? And it's like, oh, I just want this preventative, or other times it is really heartbreaking, and it's really tough stuff. Like their dogs are kind of on, death's door. And I hate to say it like that, but that is some of the situations that we're facing. And I had someone in particular who, she felt like going to the vet at this point, it just was not, it was not working. That was just not an option. And we were able to put together a plan. Her dog was not really walking much, not really eating much. Kind of just, I didn't know really at this point, right? I just said, hey, listen, if you're willing to put your trust in me and you want to, jump into this plan, why not? Right? Like if this is our last ditched effort, and we did everything. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you, that this changed overnight, or that there weren't some times where we were like, ooh, this could be a little touch and go. But it was one of the more severe cases where after like a month, we started to kind of recognize we can keep pushing forward here. You know what I mean? Like it still was a slow movement, but then after a couple months, it was like, okay, we have life back in this animal. We are eating on our own. We are like starting to walk. And so I'm still in it with, this particular case, but we are like literally moving in the right direction, and it's just amazing, because people will sometimes feel like, well, I need to put my pet down because that's what the vet said. There's nothing left to do here. And I just come from a place I will never tell someone to let their pet suffer. Absolutely not. But if you, as their pet parent, know that they're not suffering and there's like a chance, that we can get in there and do some work, then it's always, always worth a try. And yeah, we are succeeding on this case. So it's been really nice to see.
That's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. And patience is a big thing, and noticing and remembering, like, healing is not linear. It's not a straight line. It veers off a little bit, and sometimes it's like, oh, are we doing the right thing? And they just like, okay, you just wait it out, and then all of a sudden nature takes its course. So that's really thank you for sharing that with us, and thank you for what you do too, because
that's not easy, especially when people are coming to you towards the end. We always like
when
we get people that have puppies or kittens and start right from the beginning. Right, eat right and everything from the beginning. But sometimes we get those elderlies and we're like, man, they have their whole life of toxic stuff, but to see the results is why we're all doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Have you ever seen it to where the animals start healing emotionally when their humans start healing?
Well, yes, because there is such a connection, between the way that we are ourselves like around our animals. I know, for example, when I get stressed, when I am going through things, I've had a lot, sometimes of big things that went on in my life that took me, to a place where I was like emotionally not okay. I see that in my dog literally knows, like it's just, there's a change in her. There's a, so when I'm feeling good, it's a shared emotion. I know that like deep in my soul, because I can see how my dog will react if I, in my behavior changes in any way.
Yeah.
And then I have to tell myself, get it together. The dog is noticing. The dog is noticing. And it usually pulls me out.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and if it can be negative, they can pick up on our stresses and all that stuff.
Yes.
It can be positive too. They can pick up on positive things. When you start to really heal yourself, they will also just pick up on that. It's contagious.
Hmm.
So
Absolutely.
that's beautiful. Would you say that there's any patterns that you see over and over that people might miss?
Patterns in like if their dog is suffering with something, or if the cat's suffering with something.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think it goes back to kind of like what I was saying before, is every little thing, right? We have to recognize everything that's going on in the body. So that example I was given, when people say to me, well, nothing major is going on with my dog, and then I get, well, this is happening, that's happening, you know what I mean, the skin issues, the ear infections, I've had to bring them in for this, that, and I'm like, well, hold on, these are major things. So what that's telling you is that each and every time something's being put in the system that shouldn't be, that, and I want to even just take this away from vaccines, like the flea and tick medications, the even the conventional stuff that they use to groom our dogs,
Right.
it's just full of fragrances, and all of those things can be, yeah, when you're seeing anything that's going on within your dog that is not typical, don't just chalk it up to, oh, like it's not a big deal. We really have to look at what it is. And where people have a hard time, because it's like, well, let me change the food, right? They think the first thing, when my dog's itchy, let me change the food. I try to change the mindset, and I'm like, the dog's itchiness has more to do with what's going on like a toxicity level. Food is important, but it has to be a whole body system.
Yeah.
So definitely you have to listen to the body.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love what you just said there about change the mindset, because I think that one, the food, and then the other thing is if they start noticing anything, they rush to the vet. But
Hmm.
if the vet doesn't have the right mindset either, then you're kind of double whammy there. So
Yeah.
that's really beautiful about the mindset. That's what people need to remember. 'Cause
Hmm.
we already know all this stuff. We're just trying to remind people. They're smarter than we. I think that people are smarter than they actually give themselves credit for.
Agree. I definitely agree.
um, what would you say? Do you know, or can you think of like one so-called natural product or trend uh, out there that's just total hype and doesn't deliver?
So I can think of the
Okay.
two major ones that I hear about all the time. Um, Probiotics and CBD.
Okay.
Now, I'm not saying that either of those two don't work. What I'm saying is that it's become like gimmicky,
Yeah.
right? It's become like, oh, this kibble has probiotics in it. And I'm like, no, hold on. Like that kibble with probiotics in it. And no, we're not, that does not work. Please don't get that one. Okay. Don't do the kibble at all. Or we have CBD that's being sold at the gas station.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we because these things are, again, now that there's so much information out there and there's so many products and so many different companies, we as the consumer have to be smarter, and we have to trust the products and trust the company. And honestly, I always say, know the person. I know the people, like the people that I get my supplements from, I know them. I know the people that have created the company.
Yeah.
I am no longer, okay, spending my money on products where I don't know where it comes from, how it's manufactured, because That's probably a whole nother podcast on
Yeah.
supplements.
That's funny you said
Okay.
that because I literally was just thinking we just had our most two recent podcasts. I feel like we should just have a big podcast party between everybody and like let's have a chat about everything because it's a family that does CBD and it's from his own
Mhm.
personal experience of his own health
Yep.
stuff and
It's the cleanest.
it's the cleanest CBD we've found on
Yep.
the market and we agree. We're like there's so much crap and all this stuff and it's so expensive. There's no way that's okay. You know, all these flavorings and all
Yeah.
that. So we're gonna connect you with him too.
Yeah, well,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that you touched on something really important there too, because if you can get to know the owners or the manufacturers of these products, well, that's a great test right there. Because some people are probably like, "Well, I can't just get to know the owners of a company." Well, if they're not transparent enough to be able to talk with you on the phone about their product, then it's probably a product you can move on from. So save yourself some time
Yeah.
and move to the next one. You know what I mean? So that's great.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I like more of the smaller, I'm obviously not, connecting with probably $1 billion company. I am connecting with people that, they're kind of like me doing what I do with the health stuff. I don't
Yeah.
have this big business, but I see what they're doing and I see the work that they're doing. And a lot of times, we're just introduced on maybe I know a group of, it's two girls that I actually did my detox with, my Parasite cleanse.
Yeah.
They broke off and, you know what I mean, created this supplement company and all these detox teas. So I know them. So it's like even kind of things like that. And if you don't know them, then connect with somebody that does know people like that, like that's how we do it.
Yeah,
For sure.
yeah. You put the work in, and then you find these people that's literally all they do. And it's
Right.
just like, so that's another thing is if you have a supplement company that makes 100 different supplements, well, how can they have a really, really great one in there?
Right. Absolutely.
Um, so what would be one weird or unexpected method that you stand by that even if it sounds strange at first?
So I do castor oil packs on
Oh,
my
yeah.
dog.
That's awesome.
So I know people are
Edgar
like,
Casey
what?
would be proud.
Yeah, that's another thing. Casey's like, oh God, like running across the house. No, I'm kidding. She's used to me. But I
Oh, her
do
dog's
like
used to me.
she had a lipoma. Again, she's gonna be 18. So it's not like I can sit here and always say, sure, I know what to do, my best to try to prevent these things. At some point, although I don't want to have to recognize it, I have to that her body is getting older and things within her system are going to slow down more. So I do castor oil packs on that lipoma. So it's and even if you don't like there's so many benefits to do it in general, even if there's not something specific there. That is right there, your liver, right? That is the thing that is kind of also processing all the toxins within the body. For people, it is the same thing. It's so easy too. That's the thing. It is such an easy, simple, cost effective, detox modality. And it's just absolutely hands down. I would recommend everybody has castor oil, hexane free in a glass bottle.
Yes.
And some
Yeah.
organic wrap, don't use anything,
Yeah.
that has, plastic, these wraps that come from Amazon, they have plastics in them, but you get those two things and it will make a world of difference.
That's awesome. I love that. I mean, castor oil is one of the greatest healing anything, supplements, whatever you want to call it. I mean, you can use it for so many different things. I know that even for my personal health, like we live in the freaking desert. It's so dry here. So, getting a dry scalp, I had it for years, almost my whole life. And castor oil, boom, it was gone in a week. Just a little bit of that for yourself. So amazing. That's great information. And I think that people wouldn't know that is kind of a weird thing especially for dogs, because so that's really, really awesome.
And it's everywhere. I've seen it my whole life, but like, why would I get it? Like, you don't know, so it's perfect information.
Yeah, and I think that we got overlapped a little bit, but I actually forgot your dog's name is Casey, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I was saying Edgar Casey would be proud because he was.
Oh, yes. Okay. I heard Casey and I was like, how did he know my dog's name? But then I was like, maybe he just figured it out from my Instagram.
That's awesome. So if you had 30 seconds to speak directly into the heart of every pet parent on earth, what would you say?
I would say that my goal for everybody is to create longevity within your pet's life. And there's nothing more heartbreaking than seeing people losing their pets at 4 or 5, 6 years old. There is a simple way to overturn that. And that is, it's not that I created it, again, the food, the detox, the supplementation, learn what you can yourself, okay, to at some level be your own vet. We do not need to be bringing our dogs into the vet for these well visits and all of this over medication, over vaccination. Just focus on those three things. You will create longevity and a happy and healthy pet. I do not want my pet living to this, old age of 18 and being miserable. My dog is out walking miles a day. I want that for everybody.
Yeah,
That's beautiful.
I love it.
Yeah. And, you spoke to the 4 or 5, 6-year-old dog, the ones that lose their pets that young.
Mm-hmm.
I unfortunately had to do the same. I lost a German Shepherd at 4 years old. And, it took those traumas to get to where we are now. And not everybody has to go through trauma or tragedy to get to having a healthy lifestyle or pet, and so, yeah, that's awesome. Where would you say, or what would you say your vision is for pet wellness in the next 5 years?
There's so much, but I'll sum it up quick. I mean, there's so much, but at the same time, like you guys have heard me say time and time again, simplicity. This is literally what it boils down to. We are all busy. We are all going in 1,000 different directions. I just want people to have a better way, because many people that come to me, they feel trapped. Yeah. They feel trapped. They don't feel like they have the knowledge, to kind of do this on their own. And I just build them up. It's almost more that sometimes I'm working with the person, more than I'm working with the pet, because I'm just building them up, giving them the knowledge, giving them the confidence, and to let you know that you can do exactly what I'm doing. I am not performing brain surgery over here. I am not the smartest person in the world. I've just figured out how to keep the body healthy and do what I need to do, to keep those toxins out of my dog's system, my cats, same thing. That is the goal for everybody. Just a simple formula to follow and just make it part of your daily life.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, we really think that, in detox is getting stuff out. So we think that subtraction, not addition. You don't need to go and add a bunch of more things to your pet's diet or your diet or whatever. You need to subtract it. And so I guess our dream would be to see some of this stuff start going away. Subtraction, we need to go back to nature, but
exactly. Simplicity, just remove a little bit more of this Western medicine, Western convention, veterinary care, and just kind of go back to basics. That's it.
Yeah, that's great. Before we wrap up, can you go ahead and share with people?
Excuse me, kitty.
She's like, you got to see me first before you.
Yeah.
We like these people.
So before we wrap up, where can people find you, and what are you working on right now and excited about?
So they can find me. My Instagram page is probably the easiest. It's Detoxify2, the number 2, Purify. And I'm working on, I actually created a platform. So it was what I think I mentioned a little bit earlier before. It's detox for people and pets, because again, with that simplicity, I like to, right now I'm doing a parasite cleanse. When I do a parasite cleanse, I parasite cleanse the whole house. Everybody gets it. So I'm trying to make people understand that these are things that could be done in this super busy world, just again, have one place that you can come to. I've done all the work. So people just need to literally log on, and that's all they have to do. And that's how you can recreate and do the same thing, excuse me, kitty, for your pets as I do for my own pets.
That's great.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Definitely we'll be including all that in the description in this podcast, and I'll add some things too so they can get to you quicker, hopefully.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Absolutely.
Well, yeah. So that's it for today's episode, guys. If something that Danielle shared sparked something in you, don't let it fade. Go take action today. Today's the best time. Your pet's health, your health, it's all connected. If you want to learn more, check out the show notes. We'll be sharing everything as Eden mentioned. We'll drop Danielle's links, the tools she talked about, and a few ways to start implementing this into your life today. Thanks for listening, y'all. Until next time, stay wild, stay grounded.
Thanks, Danielle.
Thank you, guys.